Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining our live stream tonight. My name is Jason Combs with Education Quest. A very special welcome to evening to our guest, Becca Alec. Becca plays volleyball for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and she's here to tell us everything we need to know about college athletics and being a student and how you balance those two things. A couple of things before we get started. If you have any questions for Becca throughout the interview here, go ahead and put those into the comment section on the video. And when we kind of wrap up, we'll come back to those questions and hopefully get everything that you have answered at that point in time. One thing too, we are giving away this evening some nice Education Quests. Your choice, either a mug here or I've got a water bottle. So I am putting a link in the chat, and with that link you can go ahead and fill out a quick little form. That'll get you everything that you need. Give me just a minute. There we go. Takes just a second to paste some things around and then we'll get started here. Wonderful. All right. So Becca, why don't you start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you went to high school, what position you play on the team. Give us a little background.
Yeah, well, I'm Becca, and I'm a sophomore middle blocker at Lincoln, Nebraska, and obviously I play for the Husker volleyball team. And my story of where I actually went to high school is a little complicated. So I went to Lincoln North Star my freshman, sophomore, but then we ended up moving my sophomore summer. So then I ended up graduating out of Waverly. So I went to Waverly High School my junior, senior year. And yeah.
Awesome. So let's jump into the first question. Many high school athletes just kind of have a dream of playing collegiate level, whatever sport they're in. So what kind of advice would you give to those aspiring athletes?
It's funny you just asked me, because I was asked this question the other day at a camp. And I told the mom, I said that teach her, or she can also learn to do the hard things. Because I think going through the basic drills, the boring fundamental stuff is usually overlooked at a very young age just because it is considered really boring. But I had a coach teach me from a very young age to try and find joy in doing the little things well. And from there, it made doing the really hard things not seem so hard anymore. So yeah, my number one advice would just be enjoy doing the hard things. And then my other piece of advice would also be able to take risks, so that in doing the hard things and the little things, you're willing and you're more comfortable to step outside your comfort zone. So, yeah.
Awesome. I think those are amazing life things, not just sports things. The little things in life, kind of people get hung up on those. So it's nice to find a way to enjoy those. So what was the recruiting process like? I know there's a lot of mystery kind of in that. Like, how do I go from, maybe playing a club level sport in high school or playing a sport for high school and then making that transition, getting people to find you?
Yeah. Well, I was blessed from a young age when it came to the recruiting process, and my story is not like everybody else's. My twin sister's was actually much different than mine. But from how mine went down is, well, one, I was very tall from a young age, so that helped me stand out from a lot of the others. And yeah, I guess just like what my mom had done for my older sister who played volleyball at the time was she had a spare iPad that she would just upload a ton of videos of her, whether it was at practices or scrimmages, and obviously from tournaments, just uploading that to Huddle or whatever the latest platform was used for recruiting at the time, and emailing coaches that you were specifically interested in. One thing I did learn, though, in the recruiting process that I got from coaches was when it came to emailing coaches, they wanted it to be individualized, because they noticed whenever you send out a mass email and just delete one coach's name and put in the other, and delete their school and just put in the other. So really making sure that they can tell that you are genuinely interested in their program. And yeah, I mean, I think just overall, just like what's going to make you stand out as a player is obviously going to help you be found. Like, if you're just doing what everyone else is doing, and if you're not communicating louder, I think volleyball, it's a very vocal sport. So if you're typically the more quieter person, it can be harder to get recruited unless your skills speak for themselves. Because or one of our girls on the team right now, actually at Nebraska, she's not one of the loudest girls on the team, but her skills, they make enough noise. Like she's out here, she's out here doing her job very, very well. And so she's kind of like the silent killer on the team. That's what we like to call her. 'Cause, you have people like me who are screaming and making noise, and then you got people like her who kind of just go about their business in the dark. Um, so, yeah, I guess just putting yourself out there on social media as well as putting yourself out there on the court. Um, yeah.
It takes all different kinds of people to make a team. So
hmm
that's some excellent advice there. So how has being an athlete affected your school experience, your education, and kind of life outside of the court?
Well, it's taught me to appreciate my free time for sure. And for a very long time, honestly, before I got to college, I considered volleyball my hobby. So when I did actually have downtime, I usually just plugged into some sort of screen and then would go to bed. I didn't really think twice about what I was actually interested in outside of my sport. And now I'm getting to the point, like, just kind of growing into a woman and everything, like what am I really passionate about other than my sport? And I've learned to become like passionate about horses and working with horses as well as surfing just from traveling. Like I've got all kinds of different hobbies now. And so making time for myself and those hobbies to do those other things that make me happy because I think as a college athlete, I think it's fair to say that sometimes our sport, it is our job. Like it is what technically pays the bills. Like for those that are on scholarship, that's what keeps us here. And so another thing is it's like also maintaining the grades. So I think just pushing yourself on the court and in the classroom can get really hard. And I think if you don't time manage very well, you'll find yourself being pulled in every direction and really exhausted. And so it's taught me to appreciate my free time, and also like my time management skills because it's either you figure it out or you don't, and it's going to hurt when you don't.
So when you were going through the recruiting process, when you're trying to decide, what school you're going to attend, did academics, major options, campus environment, things like that affect your decision to choose Nebraska Lincoln over other schools?
Yeah, I think just the size. I really liked how big it was, but out of my own ignorance, I didn't realize that with Lincoln being the main state school, a lot of my friends from high school to elementary school and middle school would be here. So as big of a school as it is, I've actually run into everybody I've ever known. At least that's what it feels like. I'll see people that I haven't seen since elementary school at Herbie's Market. I'm like, oh my goodness, how have you been? It's been, I don't know, 10 years. So, yeah, I really like the size and I do like the community. Though it is nice meeting new people, I think just out of human nature, it's nice to know what's familiar. And being surrounded by people I've known and grown up with, it's really cool just to see where we're at in life. And I've come to appreciate that. I didn't know that when I was committing here, but it is something that I think it was like a hidden gem for me. Um, and yeah, I think just the overall atmosphere, Husker fans go hard for their athletes. And I think it's like not a lot of other schools. I don't know very many atmospheres at other schools just because I didn't take very many visits. But time and time again, you hear about Husker Nation doing something crazy or stupid just because their team lost or their team won. And just with me being that kind of person, like I'm also really intense. I can admire that about our fans. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, obviously just the overall culture of the volleyball program is what stood them apart from every other program. I think the Nebraska standard isn't like everybody else's. And yeah.
It's a good connection between you and that fan base. I love hearing that.
hmm
So why don't you give us a kind of a quick overview of like what's a week like in Becca's life? How do you balance, academics and classes and practice schedules and that?
Yeah. Okay, well, do you want me to start on Sunday or Monday?
Start on Monday.
Monday. Okay, so Monday we have lift. So lift ranges, we have an like open hours lift. So it can start from 7 and it closes at 10 and you need to get your lift in before that time. Well, luckily I don't have class till 11:30 and I have a tutor at 10:30. So I get to have a tutor for the class I'm actually about to go to, which is nice. So they can help me out with previous week stuff before starting new week stuff, which is really nice. So I'll go to lift and then I'll go get breakfast after that. at our training table, or it's also like the athletes cafeteria. And then I'm going to go to my tutor, and then I'm going to go to my class. And then after that, I'll usually do some homework because I try to stay within a meal time. I try and eat every 4 hours, or I usually schedule my day. So if we practice at 3, I'm going to eat at, what would that put me at? 11? Because that's how we do it on game day. So this is a habit that I started doing this year, and I really like the results I've been getting, and also just the way I feel. Last year, I used to just eat like when it was convenient, and I just didn't really like. Some days I'd feel good, and some days I was sluggish. So I've been making that change this year, and it's been really good for me. So I eat every 4 hours. Usually, depending on when we practice, is when I'll eat and stuff like that. So then after my accounting class, I'll do homework, I'll go eat, and then usually after that, I'll come back to my apartment and I'll try and take a nap just to get away from everything. And sometimes I won't have time to come to my apartment. So I'll just go to the Bob Devaney Center where we train and compete. And we have a ready room, or kind of a lounge room connected to our locker room. And so I can take a nap in there, or I can meditate, or if I just want to watch YouTube or Netflix, I can do that. And so, yeah, I'll hang out in there. And then usually an hour prior to us actually getting onto the court to practice is when I start getting ready for practice. And that includes usually me putting in my headphones, listening to my music. I'll start to get dressed, and then we do these prehab exercises to get certain muscles fired up, depending on what's wrong with our bodies. So we all have different things that our trainer has set up for us. So for me, as an attacker, we have to work on firing our glutes and things like that, just so one, I have stability all the way down to my ankles. Like, you learn a lot about how connected your body is when you get into college athletics, because if something hurts and you don't take care of it, it's going to start to spread. Things are going to start pulling on each other because that thing's tight. So we'll do the prehab workouts, and then we'll get to practice. And then after practice, I'll go to dinner, do some more homework, and then I'll go to bed. So that's day 1. And you basically just repeat that. You basically repeat that 4 days a week. So Monday, Tuesday, have a complete off day on Wednesday. And so like I did today, I just went to class. Well, actually, no, class got canceled because it's an exam week. So I went to breakfast. I did a ton of homework. I took an exam, did some more homework, and now I'm doing this. And after this, I'm going to go to my Bible study, probably do some more homework after that. And then I'm going to go to bed and then repeat what I did on Monday for Thursday and Friday. But this Friday is going to be different because we're scrimmaging Creighton. So it's going to look a lot more like an actual game day, like how we would in season. So that's going to be fun because it's going to be the first game day for a lot of the freshmen. So that's going to be really cool. And Saturday, Sunday, we have completely off, which is unheard of because usually coach likes to throw in a yoga session here, a meeting there or something, or even a practice on Saturday. And so the fact that we have Saturday and Sunday off this weekend is super fun. So I'm going to go check out my horses and my friends, or just not my horses, just my one horse that I'm working with now. And Saturday is the spring game for football, so I'll be going with my teammates. So yeah, it's pretty busy.
Yeah, it is. That's a ton to do in 1 week.
Yeah.
So have you noticed that like schoolwork suffers? Do you have any issues with getting stuff done, making sure that your homework, your classes, your tests, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna lie, some weeks are harder than others. I think for me, usually the week prior to exam week always seems to be the most busy for me. And I think it's because I know the next week is exam week, so I'm like studying, trying to see if I'm on top of my stuff, because I swear the hours go by so fast leading up to an exam. It feels like there's never enough time. And so yeah, some weeks are really hard, and sometimes practices are harder than other practices, and it just feels like there's assignments that are just covering and smearing all over your computer, and it's like you don't know if you're ever going to get it done. But then you just fall back into going into your planner, slowly scratching things off, like what you can control, and just like putting yourself in a space where you're actually going to get work done. So yeah.
Sounds like you've got kind of an organization system that's really helped you just kind of keep track of all that stuff. you mentioned a planner. I know that's a popular thing, is to have that
Yes.
on hand to make sure that you're getting stuff done when you need to get it done. All right, I want to
Yeah.
go back to something you mentioned
Okay.
earlier in your answer to one of the questions, that you plug in your headphones and kind of listen to your music. So, what's your like go-to pump up song? I have to know.
Oh, my go-to pump song. Well, honestly, anything by Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs, it ranges. It's so hard because sometimes, okay, actually, the one song I've been listening to a lot right now is, what is it? I'm looking it up right now on my phone. I think it's so cute.
Fresh off
It's
the rack.
Memory Lane. I'm not gonna play it. I'll just show you. This is on Spotify. Memory Lane by Old Dominion. I think it is so catchy and so cute, and it's country. So that's usually what I listen to. If it's not some sort of like Christian music, it's usually country. So yeah.
Love it. I'm a hockey fan, so all the small things runs on my playlist alone.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that prep for games. Mentally, physically, like that. I think you mentioned them. About an hour or so before the games when you're really kind of dialing yourself in. What does that look like for you? How do you get mentally and physically prepared?
Well, the biggest thing for me is honestly, even like earlier in the day prior to the hour or 2 hours before a game is no phone. It can be hard with music. Usually while I go on do not disturb. So like prior to the game, you're probably not going to hear from me until after the game or even the next day, depending on if we play late. So I just really think that phones, yeah, I mean, it's you see it everywhere, and I'm 100% agree with like all of it is like phones are incredibly distracting, and there's just already so much science behind it about like what it does to the brain. And I think just being able to be present an hour or two before a match can give you so much leverage and also peace of mind, especially if it's a really big game, and especially a first game. Just playing for Husker Nation in general, it gets your heart beating fast with that many people screaming and yelling and just going crazy. So getting myself in a place where I can just be present and talk to my teammates, or even if it's just me listening to my music, just being present for the song is huge for me. Because if I try and be everywhere and act like, kind of just fill time by scrolling, it doesn't really help me be distracted, or it doesn't help me be focused and intentional with what I'm doing. So the biggest thing that helps me dial in is leaving my phone to just music, if that. And we also do a lot of meditating before practice. A new thing that we started doing this season is making sure you did some sort of mindfulness that day, whether it was a minute to 10 minutes or something like that prior to practice. You come in, so we have this big whiteboard that we have, and we have this chart that we use to like check off certain things, and one of them is mindfulness or meditating or visualization. And it's just like, how else can we get, an inch, one in our game and on our competitors. So if we can work on our body, our skill, we also need to work on our mind. So that's another thing that I do prior to practice is meditating. I mostly do mindfulness. I don't really try and think about volleyball, just try and get myself right. Um, so yeah, like that's really the biggest thing is just trying to be present.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying. That phone is drawing your attention away from yourself and your prep and what you need to do. So commend you
Yeah.
for being able to turn that off, because that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is hard.
So what's your well? Sometimes it's gonna be a hard question for people to answer, but like, what's your favorite thing about being a college athlete? But also, like, what's your least favorite thing about being a college athlete?
Well, I guess my favorite thing about being a college athlete would have to be this is so fun. Just food. I'm such a foodie, and what we have access to, like as an athlete at Nebraska, is our training table, and I we are just beyond spoiled. We have a fruit bar, like a yogurt bar. We have our own stir fry station where we can go cook our own food if we aren't really satisfied with what's being put out in the buffet line. We have so many options. We have a sandwich, like little shop. Like there's just all of these different things to cater to each of our needs, and um yeah, like, and depending on your sport, you're able to find what you need or put together what you need to if you can't find it in the buffet. So that's one thing I really have enjoyed about being a college athlete at Nebraska. In general, I mean, just the community. just all the other athletes know what you're going through. If you're having a hard week and your body's hurting, everybody knows. Whenever you use like, well, I don't think I want to hang tonight, guys. Like, I'm tired. Like, everybody gets it. Nobody's gonna like, it's just like that mutual part where we're all on the grind for our sports, and we just need that quiet time to ourselves, even if it's that whole week. Like, hang out, everyone understands, just because you got to get your mind right. Because it took a certain level of competitiveness and commitment for us to get here, and to maintain that status, but to also like climb that ladder on our teams to get to that top spot, like, is respected. And I think that's really cool. um as for the thing I like least, I guess just like free time. Like, since I have been trying to learn more about my own hobbies and what I'm interested in other than volleyball, it makes it hard to like say no to what I really want to do, especially when I find a new hobby, because it gets me super excited. And yeah, that can be really frustrating, because all you want to do is like, especially if you start a new show. I think a lot of athletes can relate to when you start a new show and it's usually like a dead week, whether it's lifting or practices. So then you're able to like go about a regular routine, you're able to watch your show, it's a good time. And then all of a sudden practices start going, homework starts picking up, and then you haven't watched your show for like 3 weeks. So that's really frustrating, because I've started a ton of shows usually in the off season, and I will not get back to them until next off season.
Hard to
So
finish those, huh?
I guess just free time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when you've got something you're committed to. It draws your attention, and finding that balance. You've obviously found some balance, but it'll just be I think it'll be a life thing for anyone, athletics or not. Like, you just always have to balance all the things that you want to do with the things that you have to do.
Hmm.
So a big appeal for students saying I want to do athletics in college is the scholarship aspect of things. And I know we won't want to get into exact amounts, so don't do that. But can you talk to us about like your scholarship and what it pays for, what it doesn't pay for? Did you have to find other scholarships and other ways to supplement your cost for college?
Yeah. Well, as far as I know, my scholarship, it covers just about everything. And on the weekends, I actually get paid money to. Oh, well, not on the weekends. I used to, depending on like the meal plan I chose. The new meal plan I've chosen since I moved off campus is where I'll get like $80 every month to go buy groceries, and that will set me up honestly to the next month, simply because I eat at training table. It pays for all my meals that I go to on campus. And we have this fund in I think it's in May or in April, at the beginning of April, where you can turn in a certain amount of money. So for a good, it's like free money. It's Yeah, it's ridiculous. So say for me, like, I bought some. Let me see if I can show them. I had like a Ninja and a what else did I buy? Oh, an air fryer, and they were able to pay for that. I bring them the receipt, and they pay me to go buy stuff. So
Huh.
that was cool. Um, Obviously, like, clothes, and sorry, I can't really think of everything. I'm entirely. I have a full scholarship, so everything's taken care of for me, which is beyond grateful and blessed to have. So sorry, I
And
don't really know all the things it covers.
but that's I think it's an important thing to know. Like, there's scholarships out there like yours that make life easier on you and pay for those things, and let you focus on academics and athletics, and not on having to have a job and balance that and throwing that into the mix. But I'm sure that not everyone on the team, I'm sure not every athlete in every sport has that same experience. So you always have to know going into that process. This is, my advice to the audience is you got to know going into it, what is covered, what isn't covered, what are you going to need as a student or as an athlete, that's not being covered by what the scholarship is. So
Yeah.
do you feel pressure to play well, to do well from classmates, from the community, or is that more of like an internal? You just have that athlete drive of like, it doesn't matter anything else. I want to do best for me.
I think it's a mixture of both. Honestly, like when, there's days when you're tired and you just want to think about getting through practice and not being intentional about it. I think what pushes me is it's like, well, coach had showed us this one video the other day. We started doing motivational, like short, like 30-second clips before practice. And this guy was talking about like, what's your limit? Whether it's, working out, less sleep, like say you're able to function off of 4 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep, like push yourself to figure out what your limit is and then go from there. Find where you're able to like hit your peak and stuff like that and consistently hit that peak. And so for me, like I'm trying to think about how to word this. I'm not even gonna lie, I just lost my train of thought. Can you remind me of what the question is, please? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. We were just asking, like, do you feel pressure from classmates in the community to play well, or is that an internal drive?
Yeah, so in that, like, on the days when I'm not really feeling it, and it's not coming from myself, I do think about the outside voices. And those usually those give me the right amount of push that, like, I gotta get going, I gotta wake up, and I need to make this count. Because there's gonna be somebody else that is. And if I'm not, that's one extra day they have on me. So I think that the outside voices, they can be helpful when you channel them right.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple audience questions we'll get to here in just a second, but I've got one more for you before we turn over to those. That'll give everyone a chance to get more questions in here. But I think a lot of people are kind of thinking the same question is, what's your vision for after college? What's your goals? What's your life going to look like when you're done at Lincoln?
Yeah, well, much of that I've been lifting up in prayer because I don't really know. But the biggest thing that I think I want to do is own a carpentry business or be a contractor. I love the idea of flipping houses and selling them. But the way I kind of want to go about it is working in the community, especially those that really usually aren't able to afford those remodels. Having moved from a lot of houses growing up, I've learned, like, I've come to appreciate the way my mom always made.
How often or what do you have to do to secure a tutor?
A tutor? I usually just text my academic advisor. So we have the head guy whose name is Dennis, and then he's got a bunch of guys that work under him, and those are usually catered to like the athletes. So like the little questions we usually go to them about. And his name is William, and he helps me figure out tutors and stuff like that. So I think like about like a month ago, I texted William saying, hey, I'm struggling right now in econ. I've got an exam in the next week or two. Would I be able to get an econ tutor? He's like, all right, come meet me in my office when we can, and we'll figure this out. And then we got it scheduled just like that. And through the Teamworks app, which all athletes have access to, as well as tutors, is they're able to go meet and mutually kind of set each other up themselves if they don't go through their academic advisor. But I found it much easier with my academic advisor, and also like he also has that head knowledge of, oh, this person worked best with this person, and I've got really good reviews about this tutor. They're really flexible. They understand when you're late from practice, because that will happen. So yeah, like setting up tutors is honestly one of the easier things when it comes to sports in school and stuff like that.
That leads very well into the next set of questions here is, do you miss class a lot?
I do everything in my power to not miss class, especially this semester. The idea of missing a lecture like physically hurts me because I do not like being behind. And my professors, even though they both go out of the book, like 90% of the time, they'll throw in a few extra tips that will save your butt on an exam. And I've been there for classes when they did do it, and it helped me a lot. It helped me get like 3 extra points. And then there were times when I wasn't, and I was, 4 points behind. So it's just like, yes, there are times when I miss class due to traveling, but it's really ideal for me not to. So, but yeah, I will miss class sometimes.
They want to know what your major is.
Business management. It's so underwhelming, I know. But I think it's a solid major for me.
With your career goals, I agree. I think that's a good place for you. So, Well, that's some really great insight into your life as a student athlete, and I really thank you, Becca, for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us and talk to the audience. I'm sure everyone on the other side of the screen is saying the same thing. They really appreciate your experience in that stuff. So I thank everyone who joined us this evening. Next month, we're going to bring in some guests. We're going to talk about how to save for college. We're going to talk about 529 plans. And what those have to offer. So hopefully all of you will be able to join us for that and learn a little bit more about how to save money for college. And I want to thank you again, Becca. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I think we all can say the same thing. Best of luck in the next season and upcoming, and your goals and life from here on out. And we will all be in the stands cheering you on.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Yes.